Hi guys, so today I wanted to talk about ethereal essences and sort of my most recent thinking on ethereal typology and things like that. So this is going to be a pretty disorganized video because there are all kinds of different thoughts here, so I just wanted to generally chat about it and just give you guys some examples and things like that to show you sort of where I'm coming from with my thoughts. So if you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, I also have exclusive content on these topics on Miriam Style Club, and I will leave a link to how you can join and view that content down below. And also, I have a video on ethereal typology already to offer some of my perspectives on the different ethereal archetypes that could exist, so I'll leave a link to that video down below as well, and that one is just on YouTube. The first thought that I have been having recently is that this ethereal essence is so elusive, and that's a part of why it's ethereal. And I think a lot of the ethereal essence actually comes from, well, it's an essence, it's not a body type. So ethereal is not really a set of lines, ethereal is a style. And you can achieve ethereal style through any set of lines, either soft gamine lines or dramatic lines, etc., based on your body type. But the point here is that ethereal is an essence, it's a style, and it's the way that you come off. And it's really interesting to see because I think that this kind of ethereal essence, so to speak, has a lot to do with this sort of peaceful look that someone would have. And you don't even necessarily have to have an ethereal composition to your facial structure or your eyes or anything like that to achieve an ethereal vibe, so to speak, to your overall look if you have this sort of peaceful look to you. And I think that's a big part of why Cate Blanchett often reads as ethereal. And even under my original video on ethereal essences, some people mentioned that maybe it has something to do with personality type. Like if you're familiar with MBTI, maybe INFJs are more likely to have this ethereal essence to them. And I think this is true to some extent, thinking on it more, because ethereal is this kind of very peaceful type of a look, or oftentimes it is, but I'll share some of my other thoughts later as well. But this kind of peaceful look Cate Blanchett often has, and she has this sort of very peaceful demeanor looking into the distance, and that can really lend so well to ethereal essence no matter what you're wearing, no matter what your body type is. So you can see that even for, let's say, Jenna Coleman doesn't really have ethereal essence, right? We wouldn't call her an ethereal body type or anything like that, but you can see here that all of a sudden with the peaceful look she looks really quite ethereal. And I don't know if I'm the only one who sees this, but I definitely see this photo of Jenna as looking quite ethereal. And it's really because of the peaceful look. Sure, her shirt maybe is a little bit lightweight, but you can find other examples of her in some lightweight fabrics not looking as ethereal. So I really think it's her peaceful look here. And if you think it's the lightweight shirt, you might consider also Nina Dobrev. Nina Dobrev is not necessarily considered an ethereal body type, and no one really would say that she is ethereal in that way. But when she gets this kind of peaceful look going, she all of a sudden looks ethereal, and this photo of her looks really ethereal. So it's interesting to know. So if you want to be ethereal and you're just so sad that you don't have ethereal essence or your body type is not ethereal, then you can sort of consider this kind of effect of looking peaceful and how much that really contributes to ethereal essence. Because again, essence is not like body type. Essence is a certain style. Like Ingenue essence is also a certain style. But Ingenue is a totally different topic. I'll leave some links down below on Ingenue essence versus Ingenue traits, because Ingenue is sort of a physical characteristic. It can be more of a physical characteristic than ethereal. But anyway, back to ethereal. Here is another image of her also looking slightly ethereal. Of course, she has the stripes and whatever. Her outfit is not ethereal, her hair is not ethereal, but she looks quite ethereal here, in my opinion, because she has that peaceful look. And I think that's really the key to this kind of ethereal essence. essence. So why is the peaceful look the key to an ethereal essence? I think it's in large part because if you are otherworldly, right, you are not bothered by this world. And so this kind of peaceful look is going to make you look ethereal pretty much in every culture, regardless of the archetype that you might fit. And you're just going to look vaguely ethereal, right? It's not necessarily you look like an elf or you look like an angel or some kind of other archetype, but this kind of ethereal look on your face is going to lend really well to simply looking ethereal, vaguely ethereal. And I would say Julia Roberts is the same way. Nobody would say that she has a ton of ethereal essence. Some people would say, oh, well, maybe she has some ingenue essence. I agree. Sometimes she does look like she has some ingenue essence. But in this image here, she looks quite ethereal. And in this case, she just has that peaceful look. She's wearing her own flamboyant natural lines, and her hair is pretty flamboyant natural as well. But that peaceful look is really lending itself really well to the overall image that she's presenting to look quite ethereal. And this image of Julia Roberts sort of brings me to the next point, which is this low contrast look. And the low contrast look lends really well to ethereal most of the time because it is sort of creating this effect that you are in the distance, right? So things that are in the distance are lower contrast. So if you paint or if you draw, you know that things that are farther away, like far away mountains and things like that, their colors are more muted, and that's what makes them look far away. And in the same way, if you have a muted coloring to you, if you have softer, more muted colors as well as low contrast, then that is going to make you look more ethereal. So this kind of thing really tends to work. So you can see with Beyonce, she's going for a low contrast look here, and she looks really quite ethereal. And not only that, she also has some flowy lines there. In that case, it's another ethereal element, and she also has a really peaceful look. And again, you wouldn't say that Beyonce is an ethereal body type or anything like that. She just achieved an ethereal look. And another thing to think about is also that ethereal is sort of different from body type in the sense that it can take the edge off of not wearing your own lines. So Beyonce here is not wearing 100% romantic lines as maybe she would, but she still has kind of taken the edge off of that because we associate that with another archetype, and that sort of distracts us from the fact that she's not wearing her own lines. And in the same way, you can see that on Keira here. It's the same way where she's not really wearing her own lines, but because she looks so ethereal, we are sort of distracted by the ethereal vibes of this look, and we don't pay attention as much to the fact that she isn't wearing her own lines. And the same thing goes for Jenna Coleman. Jenna Coleman here looks quite ethereal. She's not wearing her own lines, but it takes the edge off of that because we associate that with the ethereal sort of look that she has, and we're distracted from her not wearing her own lines. So if you don't know your body type, then definitely adding in some ethereal elements might be interesting for you, but at the same time, it's also even more sort of quote risky to add in sort of ethereal elements if you don't know your body type, because ethereal elements can read as sort of interesting if it's executed successfully, or kind of weird and kind of off if it's not executed successfully. So for example, this image of Keira, I don't think that she really looks ethereal here, and she has a lot of ethereal elements, but you know, I feel like it doesn't work for her at all, and it just looks kind of awkward and weird. And just speaking from personal experience, before I knew about body types, I did try some ethereal looks, and for me, because I didn't know my body type back then, I looked weird. I looked really weird, and I looked really off. And so not knowing your body type and trying to go for a full ethereal look without that cornerstone of your own lines can be a little bit quote, risky, right? And this whole thing with risky and whatever, it really starts to touch on who are you dressing for. If you are feeling amazing in your own look, whatever that is, if you look ethereal and you feel like you look ethereal, but other people don't think that you look ethereal and they think you might look weird, is that an issue for you? That's a personal question. But for me, I kind of tend to agree with Justine on this topic, and I think we use style as a way to sort of communicate who we are to other people. And I'll leave the link to the video down below where Justine talks about sort of who do you dress for. And I completely agree with her. I think we do tend to dress for other people because we want to communicate who we are. So that's sort of my tidbit that I'm adding. I think that with style, I want to communicate who I am, and with communication, it's important for me to be understood. So in that sense, other people are an important part of my style, but I don't dress to impress other people, and I don't dress to make them think that I am a certain way that I'm not, but rather to communicate who I am and to come across as the person that I am. So in that way, I think we do dress for other people, regardless of who those other people are. And so in that way, I think it's important to think about successfully communicating your message. And if you don't know your body type and you dress ethereal and you kind of miss the mark for whatever reason, it might just completely, your look might sort of fall apart in its communication, and you might just look kind of weird, right? So that's sort of where I'm coming from with that. So with ethereal, it is really good to think about how those ethereal elements can fit into your body type. So Nina Nesbitt is not ethereal, so to speak, right? So she doesn't have ethereal essence to her. I wouldn't call her ethereal. She usually doesn't tend to look very ethereal, but here she's doing this perfectly because I think she looks quite ethereal here, but at the same time she is flamboyant gamine. And if you are a part of Miriam Style Club, then you know that she is flamboyant gamine, and you also know whatever. I talked about her a lot in one of my videos on the sexy flamboyant gamine and how to achieve a sexy look as a flamboyant gamine. However, here she is going for more of an ethereal look, and for her this really works because let's sort of think about this look, right? So she has a mixture of opposites in terms of her lines. So she has that very stiff, oversized button down, and that is sort of a more yang element to her look. And then she also has this corset top over it, and this kind of mixture of opposites, the corset top is more yin, is going to really look amazing on flamboyant gamine. So even if you don't think she looks ethereal, you still think that it works with her body type's lines. So this kind of look is going to work for every single perception of it. It objectively, sort of quote, objectively looks good because it's in harmony with her body type's lines, just like different notes together in a certain chord sound together really good because they are objectively sounding good together. So that is the body type, right? That's the lines that she is wearing. And then the style is the ethereal style. So she's just executing it so perfectly here, and she has that low contrast look, and she has the ethereal sort of elements with the Victorian kind of elements. Victorian elements always read as quite ethereal because they are sort of associated with angels and things like that from a long time ago when people, I guess, started drawing angels. It was a Victorian time or something like that. Someone can comment down below who is more knowledgeable on the history of the angel archetype as it relates to religion and things like that. But the point is that she's executing it perfectly here because she's wearing her own lines, and at the same time the style of it is ethereal, right? So ethereal again is a type of style. It's not a set of lines. So next up we have Keira Knightley. So here I think she looks quite ethereal, and again, it's important to remember Keira Knightley is not specifically ethereal, right? So she looks ethereal here because she is combining that peaceful look, and she also has some flamboyant natural lines that she's wearing, but in this case she's wearing them in some lighter fabrics, and she has a little bit of a low contrast look going, so that looks really nice. And she has that peaceful look, so that is really bringing a lot of ethereal essence to her overall look. The facial expression that she has is really bringing in some ethereal essence. And if if you guys watched my video on breaking Kibbe's rules for dramatics and soft dramatics, you know, and I'll link it down below, you know that dramatics can incorporate some elements of flamboyant natural. So she's doing that with the hair, and she's doing that with the shirt being a little bit more unconstructed, but still she has a v-neck, which is more for dramatic. So I think she just looks perfect here. And the thing with this look is, again, if somebody sees Keira, right, and they say, you know what, I don't think this looks ethereal. I don't really see the ethereal thing, and that association in their mind isn't triggered for this specific look, she's still going to look amazing because she's still wearing things that are in harmony with her own lines. It's not like in this image where it kind of just looks a little bit off and kind of strange, right? So I think that's really important to consider.